the stories that we tell ourselves. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jonathan O'Halloran. I really appreciate you coming on my channel. Hopefully you'll subscribe so I can help you to overcome your anxiety and live your dreams. So in today's talk, I'm going to be teaching you and mentoring you on how to overcome anxiety and live your dreams by first recognizing the story that you're telling yourself. We've all got two stories. All of us have got two stories. The first story is the story that we don't like about ourselves. The story of fear, of shame, of anxiety, of blame, of distrust, of past hurts, of past abuse, of past bullying, of past criticism. And we don't like that story. And we don't want other people to know that story about us because we're afraid of what they will think. We're afraid that they won't love us. We're afraid that they will reject us, abandon us, judge us, put more pain onto us. So we run away from this story. But as we run away from this story, we feed this story. We feed this story every single day by not doing the things that we really want to do and not saying the things that we really want to say and not following our heart and living our dreams because we're terrified. We're so frightened, and a lot of the times we're scared to admit that we're afraid because we don't want to appear weak to other people, to our friends, to our family, to our colleagues, to our co-workers, to our neighbors, and to the rest of society. So we bottle this story up and we keep it in. And it hurts. It hurts keeping this story in. The story of the past trauma. The story of someone that you loved and trusted who hurt you, who betrayed you, who broke your trust, who paralyzed you with not loving you, or not hearing you, or not appreciating you, or making you feel that you're worthless and you're not good enough and other people are better than you. So we get stuck in that story and we don't know how to get out of that story because part of us doesn't want to get out of that story because we've been in that story for so long. Although it makes us miserable, unhappy, it keeps us in pain, it keeps us blaming, it keeps us resentful, it keeps us holding on to anger. It's safe. It's all we know. And we believe we're that story, so it becomes an identity. So we're trapped in the confusion of the story. We don't want the story, we don't like the story. We're ashamed of the story. We don't want other people to know about our story because we fear that they will judge us and that will destroy us. It will kill us. But we don't want to step out of that story because we're afraid if we step out of that story, the negative story, and we start to create a positive story, and we start to get around positive people, we start to act on our goals and our dreams and our heartfelt desires, we're frightened of the consequences. We're frightened that people will attack us, they will criticize us, they will accuse us, they will abuse us, they will make us feel the way we felt when we were younger, when we was a young boy, a young girl, and we don't want to feel that feeling. And we tell ourselves inadvertently every single day that I can't handle that, I wouldn't be able to handle that. And that's why we remain in the wrong job, in the wrong relationships, the wrong finances, the wrong body, the wrong discipline, and the wrong confidence and self-esteem. Our life is wrong and we know it, and we're terrified of that. We're terrified to stand in the mirror and say, do you know what? My life isn't right. My life isn't right. My life's wrong. And I'm wrong, not because I'm a bad person, but because I'm not loving myself. I'm abandoning myself. I'm not living fearlessly. I'm not living a life of love. As one of my mentors says, who changed my story by sharing his story of me, Les Brown, we should be ashamed to die until we've made a contribution to society, to mankind. But we're scared of it. We're frightened of failing. We're terrified of being successful. We're frightened of stepping out of the story that we've become so familiar with for so many years. We're frightened of everything. We're afraid to go forward in case it goes wrong. We're afraid to stay where we are in case we suffer forever in that comfort zone, in that safety, in that monotonous everyday living which feels the same, Groundhog Day. We're frightened of that. And we're also frightened of happiness, of peace, of stepping out of this and going into a new story, a beautiful story, a story that is positive, a story that is loving, a story that is peaceful, a story that is abundant, a story of growth. A story of not caring about what people think, but still caring about people. So this is what anxiety does if you allow it to consume you, to blackmail you, to bully you, to shame you, to frighten you into reclusing back into being an unhealthy introvert. Being an introvert is a beautiful thing, but only if you get the balance of truth, love and peace right, and most people don't have that balance. So let me share my story of you so it can inspire, educate, motivate, and give you the choice, because I can't force you. Can't force anybody to change. That's why I only coach and accept committed clients on my paid programs who give me permission to teach them and mentor them and to share my story with them so they can change their story to the one that they want, and they can eradicate the story that they don't want. So my story was, growing up, I was a very loving person. I was very kind. I was naturally confident. I loved people. I was trusting. I was pretty easygoing. I was funny. I was charming. I wasn't perfect. I was a bit of a little rascal. My mum will tell you that if she's in the mood one day, and my school teachers, but I had a good heart and I was fearless, and I had good friends growing up, and I loved my family. But something happened to me growing up which destroyed me. Several things happened to me, all of which were I got bullied and I got abused physically, mentally and psychologically, and it absolutely terrified me. It made me question myself. It made me feel, sorry to use gross words, it made me feel disgusting, ashamed, unattractive, bad, wrong, not deserving of love, filthy, ashamed. That's how I felt, because I allowed the opinions and the criticism and the funny looks break me down, because I believed the story that the bullies and the critics put in me that possessed me. I didn't have the strength. Of course I didn't. I was young. I was a kid. I was 11, 12, 13, 14. I was sensitive. I was kind. I was honest. So it broke me down, and I didn't know how to get out of that story. I didn't know how to fix myself. I didn't know how to get my confidence back. And part of me felt I wasn't allowed. And there was a punishing voice that said, if you did that, your life is going to be over. So I was absolutely terrified. When people ask me, Jonathan, what was you afraid of when you were struggling? Well, I was afraid of everything. I was afraid of living. I was afraid of dying. I was afraid of staying the way that I was. I was afraid to wake up in the morning because I feared what the day would bring. Petrified. One of my earliest childhood memories were being in the kitchen, lovely memory, and my mum combing my hair. That's when I had more hair than I've got now. Putting my shirt on and my tie, getting me ready. My mum's amazing. And me being so nervous in my stomach, this nervousness, I felt sick with terror and fear. I didn't want to go to school. I begged my mum, please mum, can I not go to school today? And my mum would say, I can't let you off. You had some days off before. I'm going to be in trouble. You've got to go to school. Please mum, I feel sick. I don't feel well. Lying to my mum, begging my mum, because I was scared to go to school. Because I was so frightened of being exposed for being so frightened. I didn't want the kids to see it. I was frightened that they would bully me, that they would laugh at me, that everyone would think I was ugly. And I was petrified of failing my exams, because I was always worried about failing. So I was frightened to go to class, excuse me, because I kept thinking, what if everyone gets the lesson and I don't? I'm going to look so stupid. Everyone's going to look at me and laugh at me. And I was so frightened of people looking at me, being on the spotlight, because I was so deeply ashamed of being so frightened. And I thought everybody else was normal. Everybody else didn't have fear. I was the only kid that had it. Something's wrong with me. It's my fault. So that was my earliest memories. And that fear followed me and possessed me and kept me stuck and trapped in a story all throughout my teens, all throughout primary school, secondary school. I didn't go university because I was afraid, and I didn't think I was smart enough, and I didn't believe I was good enough, and I couldn't bear being turned down, so I didn't go to university at that time. So when I left college and went into the workplace in my 20s, the story followed me. The story followed me from a teenager all the way up until my early 20s, until I got so down and depressed when I lived in Fulham Broadway, I was having anxiety attacks every day. I was calling my mum to console me and calm me down. On other days, I was running out the house, running to my nan, who I love for love, and my nan was just the most kindest human being I've ever met. And she would calm me down and love me and calm it down. I was frightened of living and frightened of dying. So I got to a point in my 20s where my paranoia, my inability to trust other human beings other than my nan, my mum, a couple of friends, it got so out of control that I started to think suicidal thoughts, and that really frightened me. I was starting to think about ending my life, but I was frightened of ending my life. I didn't want to die. I wanted to live, but I was afraid of living in this constant anxiety and this terror that I'm going to be caught out for not being good enough, and everybody's going to know all my flaws, all my insecurities, and if they know that about me, I'm never going to be loved, I'm going to be abandoned. That's what this voice was doing from anxiety. So I got on my knees and I prayed to God. I prayed to Jesus. I always believed in God, but my faith would dip in and out because of these demons and anxieties, and I just said, please God, please help me. I don't want to be here no more. I don't want this in my life. I don't want to be frightened. I want to get a relationship. I want to earn money. I want to work. I want to contribute to society. I don't want to feel like a loser and a bum and a complete failure and feel so ashamed. I want to be confident. I want to go on and inspire and help other people, because it was always my goal and dream as a young boy in school, despite all my anxieties and some of the contradictions you hear in my story. I always wanted to help people because I helped kids at school that were getting bullied worse than me, and it felt good. It was part of my personality. It just felt, I knew it in my heart. But of course I had to get out of my own way, my own story, before I could be fit and strong and healthy and confident to go on and help other people. So when I prayed to God, I started crying. It gave me relief. I had a sense that things were going to be all right. And then I heard a message, a YouTube video from Les Brown, and it was like God answered my prayers. I cried my eyes out. I didn't cry because I was weak. I cried because I realized that I was strong and that it was possible, that I could do it and I was going to do it. And when Les Brown said, they used to laugh at me at school and call me the dumb one. He had a twin. I didn't have a twin, but he had a twin. He said, his twin's the smart one. He's the dumb one. He's labelled eligibly mentally retarded, and all the kids laughed, and the teacher come up and said, hey, don't ever say that about yourself. Someone's opinion of you doesn't have to become your reality. Oh boy, I'm crying. That's my story. Although we live in different countries, he's from America and I'm from the UK, I'm from England, London, that's my story. The kids called me the dumb one, they laughed at me. Everybody laughed at me. People would laugh at me just when I walked in a room and I didn't say anything because I was so socially frail. The teachers laughed at me. Sometimes family members laughed at me. So when he said that he overcame this, growing up on an abandoned building, being adopted by his baby mama, and all these things he overcome, and become a multi-millionaire and inspired millions of people, and it spoke to my heart. And this was a time when I didn't trust anyone. I didn't trust business people. I didn't even trust myself, but I trusted this man. This man's heart reminded me of my nan, and I knew it. And I knew how he made me feel in that moment. I didn't feel abandoned in that moment. I felt confident. I knew I was going to do it. I'd done it in my mind already. I succeeded in my heart. And Les Brown taught a lot of the values that I learned from my mum and dad growing up. Work ethic, treat people how you want to be treated. Have a positive attitude. When life knocks you down, make sure you land on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up. You will fail your way to success. You've got greatness in you. You've got talents, you've got goals, you've got abilities, you've got dreams that you can't even believe right now. These are the things that he said. And he said, I don't know who you are, but one thing I do know is you listening, you've got greatness in you, but you've got to go out and you've got to work day and night for it. You've got to fight for it. Because if you don't fight for what you want, you'll automatically get in life what you don't want, the negative story. We don't have to do anything to be negative. It happens naturally. Human beings are naturally programmed to be negative. Not because they're bad people, it's a safety mechanism. It comes from the anxiety of wanting to survive, not wanting to be dead. That's why people fear public speaking. That's why they fear money. That's why they fear trusting. That's why they feel love. That's why they fear intimate relationships. That's why they fear health scares. That's why they feel this thing. It's human, so we shouldn't judge it, but we have to understand it. We have to get the balance right of surviving, but not surviving in defeat and depression and mental illness, but living each day in gratitude, living each day in victory, living each day in faith, living each day in courage, making every day count. So when I went out and I took the information from Les Brown and some of the things that my dad taught me growing up, many of the things my dad taught me, many of the things that my mum taught me, many things that my nan taught me. Change your attitude, take responsibility, make the bed, wash the dishes, take the trash out, use good manners, look for a job. If someone says no, keep going to the next one, fair way to success. So I went out and I put myself in situations which frightened me, and I stayed there for as long as I had to until I got more confident. Public speaking, first dates, job interviews, traveling, restaurants, meet-up groups, comedy groups, business. I put myself in all these areas, the gym, boxing, weight training. I immersed myself in life. I started to live fearlessly, and I started to get more confident, and I started to feel like I'm getting back to the old Jonathan. The Jonathan that was confident, that was caring, that was kind, that didn't have to worry about trusting people because I trusted myself. I didn't care for the opinions of other people, but still cared about people. And it changed my life. It stopped me from committing suicide. And shortly after, in my 20s, I got the woman of my dreams at the time. I fell in love, I got a girlfriend. I disproved the negative story that said I'm a loser, no woman would ever want to date me. If she knew me, it wasn't true. I become financially free. I beat that voice which said I'm poor, I deserve to be poor, I'm always going to be poor, I'm not worth more than minimum wage. I beat that, become financially free by building my own business, by paying my own taxes, paying my own rent, and changing people's lives and attracting clients from all around the world. All around the world, people travelled to pay me to hear my story and for me to mentor them. I lived my dreams. I stopped living my anxieties. I stopped living from the bullying, from the criticism, from the victim story, from the abuse. And I was the happiest man in West London. I was going to say planet Earth, but that might be exaggerating. I was so happy. I was overwhelmed with joy and happiness. I was overwhelmed, full cup. And that was how I changed my story from my teens to my early 20s to the years on after. And I'm going to share the second part of my story in another video where I had a mental health breakdown and I made a full recovery at the fine age now of 40. And I've talked about it in other videos. But I want you to hang on for a second. I want you to think about the story that you're telling yourself right now. What is the story that you're buying into? Because I'm pretty certain it's not a story that you like. So of course, to get to a good story, at some point, we have to have the courage to share our story with the world. Because until we do that, we're never going to have peace. Because we're always going to be worrying about what people think, or what if we're exposed, the fraud complex, all these things. But so what? Everyone's got a beautiful story. No one's better than anyone. Everyone's got past shame, mistakes. No one's perfect. We can change it. And that's obviously the story of forgiveness. My faith teaches me that. That's a story of transformation. That's a story of being a better person. That's a story of not being a victim. And realizing that no one gets away with negative actions. None of us do. I didn't. And that makes you scared, aware, but also excited and appreciate the way you treat people. So I knew deep down in my life at times I weren't treating people well, not because I was a bad person or weren't kind, because I weren't treated well by some people, and I allowed the hurt and abuse to make me angry, and I projected that onto people that I shouldn't have. But I was young, I didn't know better. Life is about living and learning and correcting these mistakes. So how you treat people will determine your story. Your story won't be positive if you treat people like trash, because they'll treat you like that, and that's how you treat yourself. So these are values that I was taught growing up, and I lived them until I got hurt. So the healing is through the confession of being honest about your story and then changing it. And when you change your story from a story that you're ashamed of to a story that you're proud of and you appreciate and you've got gratitude and you're happy in yourself and you don't care for the opinions of others, you can get to a point where if people criticize you, you just forgive them, you're neutral, because you understand the human condition. You understand challenges that people have, and you understand how you've criticized. So it's also a bit about being accountable. And all these things can be corrected. All these things can be corrected because Les Brown shared his story of me, and he helped me to change my story from a negative, shameful one to a story of positivity, love, and story that I was able to share with the whole world. And my story has changed a lot of people's lives. And my client that I'm going to work with today, Phil, his life changed because I shared my story of him. He shared his story of me. Now he's changing lives because he's sharing his story with men and women that need to hear it so they can fix their story. So you can change your story anytime you want. You've got the power to do it. It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of honesty, a lot of accountability, but it's worth it. And the last thing I'm going to leave you with, I need to remind myself of this every day. Why should we change our stories? Why should we become successful? Why should we live our goals and dreams? So we can serve other people, so we can help other people. The best gift in life is giving. Receiving feels okay. We all want to receive. We want to make more money. We want compliments. We want nice places, depending on where we're at. But after a while, it's miserable, it's lonely, it's boring. But when we share, when we give, we receive. So our motivation, my motivation was, and it certainly is now, in the second chapter of my life, at the tender age of 40, but still young at heart, young-spirited, it's to serve, it's to help others. We connect, we get everything. That's where the healing's done. That's the abundance. And anyway, when you do that, you attract good things anyway. So your motivation should be to get off your backside today, change your story from a negative one to a positive one, so you can share and love and serve other people. And I promise you, when you do that, it's not intellectual, it's heartfelt, it's spiritual. You get everything that you want in life. And this is what I've learned from great men and women. My family, myself, my clients, everyone that bullied me and criticized me. And of course, it's not an easy thing to do, but at some point, forgiveness. And I'm going to talk about that in another video. So when you change your story, you still got to work it every day to stop the negative coming in. And I practice it every day. I've done it today and it works well. So that's my story today. And as Les Brown says, one of my mentors, I'm sticking to it. What's your story? What is your story? Let me know in the box below if you've got the courage. If you haven't, that's fine, I'm patient. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe, like, share this video with someone that needs to hear it. I want to get this message out. My goal, my bigger vision is to educate, inspire as many men and women as I can who have got anxiety, who've been bullied and beaten down, to build confidence and turn their life around and live their dreams, live their dream life and live authentically and love themselves and be themselves. That's my mission, that's my goal, and I'm doing a pretty good job at achieving and reaching that goal every single day. Appreciate you coming on. God bless you. Thank you. I'll see you soon.